This is a bigger question, but like how, just very simply, what is the correct way for an American high school student to learn about the Civil War in like the most basic sense?
I mean, I don't have I don't have an original answer until my like great trilogy of the Republican Party comes out, probably in about 30 years from now. But I mean, I can't improve on, from Charles Beard to Eric Foner. This is the Second American Revolution, and in all in a strict sense, the first. This is a moment where this is how I teach it. This is a moment where America's sort of ruling political class was overthrown through political struggle that ultimately led to armed conflict and, in effect, social revolution in half the country. It also, was an era that ultimately saw the consolidation of the capitalist class in the North. But I think we don't, if we're just trying to explain the Civil War and Reconstruction proper, you could just stop it at that first moment. I mean, it's the closest thing we've had and maybe ever will have to anything like a classical revolution. I don't know, Matt. What would you add?
I think the way to teach it as a conflict that was fundamentally political. That there was not at the turn of the decade there in 1860. There was not an irresolvable conflict between the Southern slave agriculture and Northern industrial the Northern industrial economy. There was no fundamental conflict that could only be resolved through force. As many people have pointed out in the recent reappraisal of the Southern slave economy, it was well integrated into Northern capitalism. And there was no crisis of inputs or that was making making conflict inevitable. The conflict came because of the political fact that the vast majority of Northerners, for one reason or another, had gotten to the point where they were no longer going to accede to the continuous Southern demand for the extension of slavery that slavery required to maintain itself. And it is that reality that brought about the Civil War. And then you can talk about why that change happened. And that is a shift that involves the articulation of anti-slavery sentiment by people like Frederick Douglass and the abolitionists and the Free Soil Party and the Wide Awakes and all of these forces coming together to change the stakes of the argument away from where they were in, say, the 1830s, where the average Northerner said, let the baby have their bottle, what does it have to do with me, to finding slavery to be a genuine threat to their way of life. And that conflict is what actually brought the war about. And if it was a political conflict, then it was something that was created through struggle, through contest, and was an opened moment. It was a time when the whatever the DNA of the country might have been, it was in flux and it was under challenge. And what we ended up with after the war is obviously not the best outcome you would have wanted to see, which would have been, of course, the assimilation of former slaves into the polity of America in a way that didn't happen. But it certainly was not the worst either. And where we ended up was the result of struggle and bad breaks and good ones, and that is how all history unfolds.